Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Q&A, where I'm trying to answer all of your questions. And we're doing this Q&A simply because we're celebrating the first year of Ruthless Metal here on YouTube. And as I mentioned, this is part 2 of the Q&A, so check out the first part if you haven't seen it already. And hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. And now it's time for me to answer all of your questions, so let's do this. JPG asks, what topics or ideologies are a hard no for you in metal music? I would say that metal with extreme ideologies behind it, whether it's communism or extreme right-wing stuff. Otherwise, I really don't care that much for the topic matters. I'm not super into the extremely gore stuff with guts flying all over the place. I mean, it happens sometimes that I listen to like Russian or French metal. So sometimes I don't understand a word that they are singing about, but I still enjoy the music. So extreme ideologies is a no. And if they write something that I find extremely corny, like a super cheesy love song or something like that. Otherwise I rarely care for the lyrics. I just take notice if they are really well crafted or real dumb. So, next question. Andretsky asks, what genre of metal do you foresee as the most influential through the rest of the decade and beyond? I'm not sure that I'm the right guy to ask about trends, since I think that the 90s were too trendy for me, but I'll try to give you an answer. I've certainly seen more heavy metal bands in the last 15 years or so, the whole new wave of traditional heavy metal movement, and the thrash revival, and there has been an overall bigger interest in metal in the last 20 years in comparison to how it was in the 90s. But I think that bands like Gojira and Ghost will probably go down as more influential than all of those more recent heavy and thrash metal bands. Or maybe it's going to be some weird pop and metal fusion, like it always has been to some extent. Like the pop metal stuff in the 80's with Europe and Def Leppard. Or the metalcore stuff with two vocalists, one rapper or one growler, and one with clean vocals like it was in the 90s and the 2000s. Or the K-pop fusion with metal and a band like Babymetal. So if it's weird like that, I guess that the videos will get a bigger spread. But who knows what the big next thing will be in metal. It might be some sort of mumble rap metal. Either way, it seems like the history favors the bold, those who take risks and come up with something unique, so most likely it will be something that I won't listen to, but it will probably speak more to the younger crowds. So that's my answer, even if I really don't know what I'm talking about here, since I barely listen to things that are beyond my comprehension. ASD QWE asks, who were your favorite bands growing up and has it changed? I mentioned a few already. Prime Metallica I still love. Guns N' Roses I really don't care that much for anymore. Flotsam and Jetsam and Overkill were also amongst my favorites around the year 2000. And those I still check up on every time they release something new, but we all know that their prime were some 30 years ago. And my taste hasn't changed that much over the last 20 years. I still listen to the usual genres, whether it's thrash, doom or heavy metal. Jackson Jones asks, would you consider ranking Alice in Chains' discography? I doubt that I will, since I consider Alice in Chains to be a grunge band, and grunge is a rock genre and not a metal genre in my mind at least. Plus I don't know if I can mention more than 2 or 3 Alice in Chains songs, so there won't be much grunge on this channel. I leave that to Loudwire. Grind for Christ 777 asks, it would be cool to see a top 10 classic Christian metal albums of all time list. What's your favorite? I thought of doing something about Christian metal or Christian thrash metal, which I do find to be such a weird thing. But there are certainly some cool Christian metal bands out there. I don't know if I have any favorites. Well, maybe Trouble if you count them as Christian metal. Saint was also a cool band. Otherwise, there were some cool Christian thrash metal bands like Vengeance Rising, Tourniquet, Believer, Living Sacrifice, Deliverance, Ultimatum, etc. etc. Cal asks, are there any metal song lyrics that really move you / hold a special place in your heart? I don't know if I have. I do appreciate it when the bands can write great lyrics though. But as I mentioned earlier, lyrics has never been a big thing for me. John Restrepo asks, which are the most obscure metal bands that you ever heard? This is absolutely impossible to answer. I've heard bands that only released a demo or a song on a compilation that were only released locally some 40 years ago, or some stuff that is not uploaded on YouTube or Spotify. And if you want something super obscure and great, then check out the Swedish band Hydra and the song Cross of Iron from 1983. It was on a compilation called Förortsrock, Suburb Rock, and that's about as obscure metal as there is, and it's a great song too, so check out Hydra, Cross of Iron. Mita Radojicic asked me several questions. Are you from Eastern Europe? No, I'm from Sweden. Your 5 favorite albums? I'm not sure if I can mention just 5. And I think I'm gonna keep it to myself, just in case I'll make a video about it someday. Your favorite bands? It always changes and evolves. But I have a few bands that I can always listen to without ever getting tired of them. Whether it's Priest, Merciful Fate, or some early thrash, or some Swedish steel like Heavy Load and Gotham City. How old are you? I'm timeless, or 40. I was born in 1981, so I'm as old as Iron Maiden's Killers. Kayan Dorivala asks, or demands a face reveal on the 1-year anniversary. Okay guys, I'm a very private person. I'm not really that much into being on camera and stuff. But I'll make an exception. Okay guys, are you ready? So here it goes. This is me. And the reason I'm a bit camera shy is because Riot once stole my pictures and used it on their album sleeves. And I'm still a bit upset over that. I'm trying to get over it, but it's not easy. So let's just move along. Tiago asks, why are you a furry? I'm not a furry, I'm half seal, half man. Just a normal man seal. Bob Wire asks, the first record / tape / CD that you ever bought? I think the first vinyl I bought was Michael Jackson's Dangerous, or I got it as a Christmas present. And the first CD I bought was Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I think I got the vinyl first, because I lost interest in Michael Jackson when I found Guns N' Roses. But it's all a bit blurry, since it was such a long time ago. First cassette tape was Guns N' Roses' Lies, which I bought after the Appetite for Destruction CD. Helder Rosado asks, why don't you make a Ruthless Metal of Savatage? I think that you meant to say a Rank 'Em All video of Savatage, and if that's the case, I hope to do it sometime during 2022. I don't know exactly when yet, but I like to take some extra time with these Rank 'Em All videos and give myself a few extra weeks to listen through the records again. Because you're always more familiar with the albums that you love, and some Savatage albums I aren't that familiar with, even if I have listened to all of them at some point. And I try to take these Rank 'Em All videos as seriously as possible. So I feel I owe it to you to know the albums that I'm talking about, and not just wing it. Metal Crusader asked, what happened to Ruth Sin? Yeah, the thrash metal site that I mentioned earlier. I had to pay to keep it online, or have it drenched in ads, and I didn't want to do either. Plus a lot of the reviews and the stuff on the site was 20 years old, and I felt that both my language and my metal knowledge had developed since the late 90s. So I felt it was time to pull the plug for the site. But I do have over 100 interviews in text format on my hard drive, with bands such as Megadeth, Testament, Exodus, Overkill, Sodom, etc. etc. So it would be cool to do something with those interviews on this YouTube channel. I just don't know how to go about it yet. But if you have any good ideas, then let me know down below. I also ran a Swedish metal site called Swedish Metal from the Past, which is no longer online, but it lives on as a Facebook group, and a link to it can be found down in the video description. Myler Wilson asks, do you think that metal will ever be as popular as it used to be back in the 80's? No, simply because there are more things that draws people in these days. Whether it's TV shows, YouTube, video games, and even music in general. It's just another era, plus you can listen to the stuff for free over the internet these days. So there won't be any albums that sell 10 million copies like back in the day. I mean, back in 1988, a new Metallica record was anticipated like it was GTA 6 or something, and it just won't happen these days. Joseph Bobbitt asks, what was your first concert and what year was it? I was born and raised in a smaller village and there were no metal bands playing there. So the first festival I attended, I was 16 or 17, and it wasn't a metal festival or anything, but I remember seeing Refused, a Swedish hardcore band that are quite legendary. So that was my first gig, and it was in the summer of 98, I think. Ravar Serche asks, would you consider doing a rank 'em all for Neurosis? Sorry, but I doubt that will happen, because they are way too modern for my personal taste. Because I guess that you're not talking about the Greek thrashers Neurosis. Either way, the answer is no, simply because I just don't listen to them. Dean Todd asks, knowing that you're not so fond of glam metal, are there any glam metal bands that you do kinda like or no? Well, I better tread carefully here. It all depends on what you count as glam, of course. Early Wasp or Twisted Sister. If you count them, then yeah. Early Motley Crue too, Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil era works for me. Or Dokken if you count them, bands that have a heavy metal edge to them. I can certainly appreciate, but if it's just fluff like Warrant or something, then I'll rather pass. Yay asks, do you have long hair / look like you're part of the subculture? I don't have long hair no more, I cut it off some 10 years ago. If I didn't take a shower for a day or two, I would start looking like a Rastafari, so it just had to go. I didn't go bald or anything, I just grew tired of it. And I don't look much like a metal fan either. I rarely wear band shirts or studs and stuff like that. I'm kinda a boring jeans and t-shirt wearing, normal looking kinda dude. Jeff asks, why did you start doing YouTube? I had a gaming channel for 2 years before I started Ruthless Metal, but it was going nowhere, so I kinda grew tired of it. So I felt that I wanted to try something else. So I put together a video documentary on the Swedish heavy metal scene from the 80's, simply because I love that stuff. Plus there are almost no information on YouTube at all on the Swedish scene. So I thought it would be cool to compile a video with all these great and forgotten bands. So I did that just to do something else than the gaming videos that nobody was watching. And that Swedish heavy metal documentary got over 100,000 views in no time. And the next video that I put together, Who Invented Thrash Metal, has now over 200,000 views. So it was like, oh, there is a demand for metal videos here on YouTube. And it's certainly not as crowded as the gaming genre. Plus, I think that my knowledge about 80's metal is good enough to explore the topic and be able to create videos on the subject matter. My dream is of course to make YouTube videos for a living, which I can't do right now, but maybe it's possible if I stick to it. So if you want to make my dream come true, then watch my videos, like them, subscribe and rewatch them, or become a Patreon if you want to. The link can be found down below. And all the support is of course very much appreciated, but unfortunately I've seen a slight drop in the spread of my videos of late, so that's kind of a bummer, but I'll keep grinding it out and we'll just have to see where the journey takes us. Sergio Gasco Enriquez asks, who are your favorite guitarists of all time? This is also one of those hard questions. It all depends on what you mean by it, guitarist as a songwriter, or just some guy with flashy technique, or perhaps a bit of both. Plus there is a difference between a rhythm guitarist that plays riffs and a lead guitarist. But alright, I give you guys some names. Tony Iommi, Richie Blackmore, KK Downing and Glenn Tipton of Judas Priest, Denner and Sherman of Merciful Fate, and I'll throw in King Diamond's Andy LaRocque there too. Frank Blackfire of Creator and Sodom, Tommy T. Barron of Corner, and Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman laid down some insane guitar work on Rust in Peace. Gary Holt is a great riff maker, Jeff Hanneman is a great songwriter, Kirk Hammett might use that wah-wah pedal a bit too much, but his guitar play on Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets is just insane. And those are some of my favorites, I can't just pick one here. Yngwie Malmsteen is of course a super impressive guitarist, but I was never the biggest Yngwie fan, for example. Those shred guitarists I never really cared that much for. I think it's more about being effective, not being the flashiest and to be able to play the most notes per second. Russell Peter asks, what metal band do you think would put on a good halftime show at the Super Bowl if they ever chose a metal band? I guess for it to work it has to be a huge band like Priest, Maiden or Metallica. And they have to be popular in the United States, so only Metallica left then, I guess. But I would like to see King Diamond do a Super Bowl show. That would definitely shake things up and make it more interesting. And that's all the questions I'm going to answer here today, but if you enjoyed the video, then smash that like button, leave a comment and subscribe with the bell notifications turned on. And if you want to support the channel, then you can check out the Ruthless Metal store, which is linked down below. And I sell some t-shirts, hoods and mugs there. Or you can always become a Patreon, like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And if you become a Patreon, then you get to vote on different video topics, and you get an invite to my Discord server, so check all the links down below. And that's all folks, so thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.